What's going on, everyone? My name is Jake, this is Where I Talk Tunes, and today we're here to talk about the Beatles. Kinda. Because, as I'm sure you've seen at CinemaCon on Monday night, Sony finally announced the cast for the upcoming Beatles biopics, the series of Beatles biopics that director Sam Mendes is making. So 4 biopics, one about each member of the Beatles, with the same cast for all 4 being released over the space of 4 weeks in a month as a sort of, bingeable cinema experience, the world's first bingeable cinema experience, and we have the cast for the Beatles. So the cast of these upcoming Beatles biopics are as follows. John Lennon will be played by Harris Dickinson, Paul McCartney will be played by Paul Mescal, Ringo Starr will be played by Barry Keoghan, and George Harrison will be played by Joseph Quinn. Here is a photo of all the boys looking all handsome. Oh, look at them. But this has sparked some backlash on Twitter, with a lot of people saying, coming down on the side, that this is kind of uninspired casting. This is again something that we spoke about quite a lot over on the Jake Talks Capes channel regarding casting directors and how apparently, as according to Maya Hawke, they now look at Instagram followers as a metric for casting an actor in their projects these days. I've also seen a lot of people talk about how we probably should have had some unknown actors in here. We can create the next big generation of stars by having these unknown actors in such an ambitious and huge project that will undoubtedly, turn money hand over fist. People will go see this. Even people like myself, I'm not a massive Beatles fan. I think they're fine, it's whatever, but we don't need to get into that here. They're just not really for me, not my cup of tea. It's what it is. I'm still very excited for these movies because it's such a unique idea, kind of, as Sam Mendes puts it, a bingeable cinema experience. 4 movies, all telling roughly the same story, but all from sort of different perspectives, and obviously they will then at a point diverge and go their separate ways in each of these movies. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out, and there is an argument to be made that having unknown actors here and skyrocketing the careers right from the start would be a massive shout to do here. There is also, of course, the argument that 2 of these actors are Irish and 2 of these actors are from London. None of them are from Liverpool. There's also the argument that none of these guys look particularly like their counterparts that they are meant to be playing. There's a lot of arguments I've seen against this, and whilst I hear a lot of them, I feel like I'm the only person I've seen really on the side of this casting. I quite like it. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a lot to be said about the fact that they did just cast the last 4 non-American white boys of the month to play the Beatles. And fair enough, I can understand the criticism of that, but were the Beatles kind of not the first white boys of the month? But, apart from that, there is a lot to be said to that, and I understand that. But also, all of these guys are very, very talented actors. They did the same thing, casting the white boy of the month for the Bob Dylan movie for a complete unknown, and I know Timothée Chalamet is an incredible actor. I'm not trying to take anything away from Timothée Chalamet, but so are all 4 of these guys. These guys are brilliant actors. These guys are really coming through. Paul Mescal, Oscar nominee. I think Harris Dickinson is one of the most underrated actors working right now. He's one of my favourite actors working right now. Joseph Quinn is another guy that I like a lot. Barry Keoghan, again, another Oscar nominated actor. These guys aren't just fucking TikTokers that they went, Pretty White Boy's got 1 million followers on Vine or whatever the fuck, let's get him in this movie. Baywatch. And then let's kick him out of this movie, like they did in Baywatch. These are all incredibly talented actors who have been coming up and making names for themselves and making waves in recent years. And I think to completely discredit the choice to cast these 4 actors specifically down to nothing more than the sort of they want to go for who's popular at the moment is a huge disservice to these actors, and it's a huge disservice to the work that they've put in, and it's a huge disservice to the work that they've been doing over these last few years whilst they are building their name and whilst they are coming through. Whilst you can make the case that this would have been better with unknown actors, and I probably would tend to agree, maybe not better, but it's better for the careers of kind of smaller and more unknown actors to go into this, because realistically people were going to go see these movies anyway, out of nothing more than the spectacle of it, if nothing else. You really, especially considering the amount of money that Sony will have to sink into they're filming these at the same time. They're filming all 4 of these at the same time, and they're giving all 4 of them a theatrical release within the space of a month. So all 4 of these will be in cinema at the same time, and they will be releasing around about the same time. The amount of money that Sony is going to have to sink into this, not only to make these movies and make them good, they're having to nail down Sam Mendes, who is an incredible director. He did obviously 1917, and he did the last 2 Bond movies. Did he do Skyfall as well? but he's done some Bond, he's done 1917, he's done big budget pictures, and Sam Mendes, I would imagine, does not come cheap. Neither will Barry Keoghan, neither will Paul Mescal, especially now with Fantastic Four out of the way. Neither will Joseph Quinn, and Harris Dickinson, again an actor on the rise, was in the Iron Claw, has been in a lot of other things. He's being eyed for Cyclops apparently in the MCU. These guys, won't have a cheap price tag to come along. And we're not just making one movie, we're making 4 movies here. So we are probably going to have to compensate these guys. You're definitely going to have to compensate these guys a lot more than they would be charging for just making one of these movies at a time. So I can't really fault Sony Pictures for going this way. I don't think it necessarily screams about a lack of creativity and a lack of drive and ambition within the Sony Pictures sort of casting of this movie. I mean, I don't think anyone would ever say that the higher-ups at a movie studio do have drive or ambition, especially in recent years, but that's another topic for another day and for another channel, and we are just here to talk about, I guess, very loosely music on this channel. And then I guess the last kind of main argument is that these boys look nothing like the Beatles. Cate Blanchett played Bob Dylan in a Bob Dylan movie. People forget that A Complete Unknown isn't the first Bob Dylan biopic. There is, oh my god, what's it called? Let's find out. In 2007, the movie I'm Not There, a Bob Dylan biopic, came out, and Cate Blanchett plays Bob Dylan in that movie. Now, admittedly, in that movie, there are 6 leads, all kind of playing different sort of facets of Dylan's persona and Dylan's sort of, life and everything that he brings to the music. But Cate Blanchett plays one of the personas of Bob Dylan, and from what I remember, probably the one that strays the closest to what Bob Dylan in real life. She's the one that's kind of the most Bob Dylan-y, and again, it's Cate Blanchett. So I don't think we need to really go for that. Austin Butler, that's just a California surfer dude. We gave him a funny accent and dyed his hair. There are going to be things in place. They're going to put these boys in the makeup chair. They're going to give them kind of... This movie's not being made for cheap. This isn't a student film where 4 mates are like, let's play the Beatles. That would be funny. The proper time and care will be put into this, where, these guys are clearly, like I say, I still think right choices for these roles. They're 4 names that probably would have been at the top of most people's lists anyway. I think getting all 4 is what's thrown people off. If there was 1 or 2 of them in here, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. But because it's 4 of the White Boys of the Month, people are up in arms because we're not giving young actors a chance, I guess. But realistically, I like this casting. I think this is good. I think this is fun. I think these movies, it's already enough of a risk that we're making these 4 back to back. I can't really fault Sony for going for guys like Paul Mescal and Barry Keoghan and Joseph Quinn, who are all kind of known quantities. Harris Dickinson as well is coming into that as well. And Harris Dickinson, probably the least known of the 4. I know obviously he was just in Baby Girl and things like that, but still out of all of them, the least known of the 4, the least kind of the least the one with the least sort of behind them and the least, I guess, hype behind them, getting the biggest role of John Lennon. So I'm very excited for this. Now, these movies aren't releasing until 2028. We have quite a while to go before we get them. I imagine that's because these guys are locked into some new projects. Obviously, Joseph Quinn has some Avengers movies he's going to be in. Harris Dickinson is probably going to be Cyclops. And, Paul Mescal has to go on a few dates with the next bedroom pop star to come out and then, refuse to beat the Nepo Baby allegations. But no, with such a long run-up to this film, I do think it's going to be interesting to see, because we're obviously not going to hear a lot about this for a while. These movies aren't set to release for a little bit over... I think it is actually around about 3 years. I think it's April 2028 these movies are all set to release. So we have a lot of time for these movies to be done and for these movies to be put in the can. And we have a lot of time for, for these guys to win us over more, and for these guys to win over our hearts, and for these actors to become more well-known and show what they can do. But I'm into it. I'm on board. I've been on board since I saw that announcement. I do think that these guys are, well, in my opinion, probably all right for the job, all good for the job. But my main concern is that all of these are going to be tonally consistent. and that Ringo's isn't going to be a screwball comedy. But no, that's it for me today. I know it's not really a video about music, but it is kinda, and I wanted to talk about this, and I don't think this really fits over on Jake Talks Games. Let me know what you think of this casting announcement down below. Let me know if you're excited for these movies. Let me know if you think everything I've said is wrong, and this is the death of cinema, and everything is bad. Let me know. I do want to hear all opinions down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this around to all your friends and tell them about the man on the internet with the good music and, I guess, film opinions. My name is Jake. This is where I talk capes. And thanks for watching.